All right, let's jump right into this explainer because today we are breaking down a mathematical blueprint that will literally show you how to escape that exhausting paycheck to paycheck trap no matter what your current income is. We're going to be looking at a framework designed by self-made millionaire Mark Tilbury. He started out with zero money and absolutely no qualifications, but still built serious wealth. And that's because the truth is, it really isn't about how much money you make, it is entirely about how you manage what you make. Think about the absolute wealthiest people on the planet. 75% are entrepreneurs, 15% are investors, 7% inherit their wealth, and a tiny 3% are athletes or artists. But notice who is sitting at literally 0%. Everyday employees just earning a basic salary. The top 1% all share one single crucial trait. They own things. Entrepreneurs own businesses, investors own assets, inheritors own trusts, and those top athletes and artists own incredibly rare skills. So here is the harsh reality. If you are constantly working just to pay for your food, shelter, and water, you are essentially stuck in a modern-day loop of slavery. Think about it. Historically, slaves worked every day for no pay, but they got food, shelter, and water. Today, so many of us work nearly every day, get a paycheck, but then that money is immediately swallowed up by food, shelter, and water. The only real difference is the illusion of freedom. But don't worry, because this explainer is going to show you exactly how to fight back and break out of that cycle for good. To start owning things and actually building wealth, we're going to strictly allocate your income into 4 categories: 25% for growth, 15% for stability, 50% for essentials, and 10% for rewards. Okay, step 1 is 25% for growth, and this is all about buying your freedom. The absolute secret sauce to this growth slice is the crazy power of starting early. Let's look at Billy and Phil. So Billy started investing just $200 a month when he was 20. Phil waited until he was 30, but he figured he'd catch up by investing $300 a month instead. Now, by age 60, Billy had put in $96,000 of his own money, while Phil actually put in more, $108,000. But if we assume a 10% average annual return, which is the historical average of the S&P 500, Phil ended up with around $678,000. Not bad, right? Well, Billy's ended up with a staggering $1.26 million. Billy invested $12,000 less out of his own pocket, but walked away with nearly $600,000 more. That is the absolute magic of compounding growth. To actually capture that kind of wealth for yourself, you need a solid system. First, pick your foundational growth assets. For most of us, this just means low-risk index funds or investing in high-income skills, like learning to code or getting into sales. Second, you've got to set up tax-advantaged accounts. You do not want to be handing all your hard-earned profits right back to the government. If you're in the UK, look into a stocks and shares ISA. In the US, a Roth IRA or a 401k is definitely your best friend. And finally, automate your investments. Seriously, make sure that money leaves your account on payday before you even have a chance to look at it, let alone spend it. When you're setting up that automation, keep things super simple. A highly effective strategy is the classic 3-fund portfolio. You basically allocate your money across a US stock index fund, like the S&P 500, an international stock index fund to grab a piece of global companies, and a treasury bond fund just to anchor you with some stability. As you get older, you just shift a little more percentage over to those stable bonds. But the real beauty of this, once it's set up, you never touch it. All right, moving to step 2, 15% for stability. This is all about protecting your progress. Because let's face it, if your car's engine blows up and you don't have a backup fund, you're going into debt and ruining your whole financial year. So to figure out your exact stability fund target, you need to calculate your monthly baseline. Tally up your absolute bare bones essentials. We're talking rent, groceries, basic utilities, and getting to work. Actually, let me be clear. We are not talking about your Netflix subscription or Friday night takeout. Take that bare bones survival number, multiply it by 5, and boom, that is your ideal stability fund target. Now, where you park this cash is incredibly important. You have to follow 3 strict rules here. Number 1, it must be easily accessible within 24 hours. Number 2, 0 risk. Please, whatever you do, do not put your emergency fund into the stock market or crypto. If an emergency hits when the market is crashing, you are in big trouble. And number 3, it needs to earn interest, so inflation doesn't just eat away at it. Store this in a high-yield savings account, places like SoFi or Ally or Grade, where you can safely snag a 4 to 5% yield. You can build this safety net super fast using a few clever tactics. First is the paycheck sweep. Just automate that 15% to jump straight into savings the very second your paycheck clears. Next is the replacement promise. Basically, if you absolutely have to dip into the fund to fix, say, a smashed car mirror, you promise to replace that exact cash from your very next paycheck. And third, try the Save by Spending hack. Use one of those roundup apps that automatically grabs the spare change from your daily coffees and drops it straight into your stability fund. Okay, step 3 is 50% for essentials. This is about feeding you, not your ego. You know, true wealth is usually what you don't see. It's having $1,000 quietly growing in an investment account, rather than having $43 in the bank while strutting around in a designer shirt. Listen to this staggering stat. 60%. That is the amount of Americans pulling in over $100,000 a year who are somehow still living paycheck to paycheck. How is that even possible? Well, it's lifestyle creep. The minute they get a raise, they lease a flashier car, move into a high-rise apartment, and buy clothes just to look the part. They earn a fantastic salary, but they burn through all of it trying to maintain this illusion of being wealthy. To make sure your essential spending stays firmly under that 50% mark, you have to attack the two absolute biggest wealth killers out there: housing and transport. Always try to renegotiate your rent when your lease is up, or even look into house hacking by splitting a place with roommates. And as for transport, stop leasing brand new cars just for the status hit. You're literally just paying for a depreciating liability. Instead, go for a reliable, used vehicle that has already taken that major depreciation hit. Of course, we're all human, and our willpower totally fades when we're tired or stressed. So instead of just hoping you'll be strong, build a mental system. When you're standing there tempted to buy something, stop and ask yourself, is this an impulse purchase? If the answer is yes, force yourself to use the 7-day rule. Just wait 1 full week. In almost every case, that initial excitement wears off, and 7 days later, you'll realize you didn't actually need it at all. Now, if you hit day 7 and you still really want it, you need to ask yourself, are you buying this for the brand or for the actual value? Wealthy people filter their choices by utility, not hype. For instance, if you buy a $60 pair of tough boots and wear them 100 times, that costs you just 60 cents per wear. But if you buy a $200 pair of designer trainers that you only wear twice just to look cool, that's costing you $100 per wear. Always prioritize high-quality utility over expensive marketing traps. And before you swipe that card, ask yourself one last, absolutely crucial question, just to make sure every purchase is conscious and intentional. Ask, will this fundamentally improve my life? If the honest answer is no, then it's probably just a fleeting dopamine hit to kill boredom or impress people you don't even know. Keep your money in your pocket instead. Finally, step 4, 10% for rewards, keeping this whole thing sustainable. Now, you might be thinking, hey, if I skip this category, I'll get rich way faster. But studies actually show that 92% of people overspend after intense saving sprints. If you treat financial discipline like a jail sentence, you will eventually crack and go on a massive spending binge. This 10% isn't an excuse to be reckless. It's a structural strategy so you don't quit. You have to spend this 10% absolutely guilt-free on things that actually refuel you: vacations, hobbies, a great night out, or gifts for your family. Honestly, ignoring this can literally make you sick. Mark Tilbury, the guy who created this framework, was so obsessed with building his business early on that he never took a break, and he ended up diagnosed with stress-induced shingles. His doctor literally prescribed him a vacation, and a simple ski trip saved his health. Invest in your well-being so you don't burn out. To manage this without the guilt, you need to preload the fun. Go open a completely separate checking account and designate it purely as your joy jar. Set up an automated 10% deposit into it every single time you get paid. The rule is super simple. Spend it on whatever brings you joy. But when the money runs out, you do not cheat. No stealing from your growth fund, no dipping into your stability fund. You just wait for next month. At the end of the day, true wealth is definitely not about dying with a garage stuffed full of luxury cars or closets bursting with unworn designer clothes. It is about making absolutely sure that your hard work translates into unforgettable experiences with the people you actually love. Let your rewards fund help you live a really rich life today, while your growth fund quietly builds your rich life for tomorrow. Which brings us to our final thought. You've got the blueprint right in front of you. You know exactly how the 1% allocate their money to buy their freedom. So the big question is, are you going to keep working just to pay for your basic survival, letting the system own you? Or are you going to take this exact mathematical blueprint, implement it today, and start owning your own future? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.